Hello! I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank Tuesday Supper Club for producing this. That is why we have this gorgeous gourmet food and delicious drinks and our beautiful speakers. I will let you introduce yourselves in a bit, but the amazing women that are here are all designers and entrepreneurs that have been a part of Tumbao. So I feel very close to them. I respect them immensely. I appreciate them immensely. And we've kind of grown together, which has been really special. Let's start simply with your name, where you're from, your brand, and what you make.
Hi everyone, my name is Alba Garcia. I'm from Ciudad Juarez, border town in Mexico, and I have my brand. It's called Mariana. I make corsets mainly, but that's gonna change.
What she's wearing
in a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Monica Santos. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I'm the founder of Santos by Monica, a New York City-based sustainable brand specializing in biomaterials, and we're best known for our bags made from cactus leather.
Hi, I'm Genoveva Pedrero. I'm the founder of the Maria luxury Mexican accessories brand, focusing on bags and ready-to-wear mainly. I'm from Chiapas, Mexico, which is in the south. And yeah.
All right. So because we have 3 designers here who started their brand on their own, today I want to focus mostly on what it means to have a brand. And I want to start first speaking about heritage. Your brands are deeply personal, and I know heritage plays a role in each of your practices, even though they are all in different ways, which is what I think makes it special. Can each of you share one way that where you come from, your culture, your family, your upbringing, directly shows up in your work? And that can be in your designs, in your process, or even in the way that you see beauty and value.
Even before I launched the Maria, I always knew that I wanted it to be based in Mexico and just appreciating, our culture, our traditions, the beauty of Mexico. So that was always at the base. It really took a while until I started to realize that not only was the design and the branding based out of Mexico, but also the materials that I choose. A lot of it I work with mainly leather. And I realized that a lot of the textures and the patterns that I choose come from growing up in the south of Mexico, of going to, ranches with my grandfather and having him ride horseback among cattle and seeing the crocodiles and snakes. And I know it's so interesting how deeply ingrained it is in you, and you don't even realize, it's part of you.
For me, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, born to a very creative family. My mom worked in retail her whole life and eventually opened her own atelier and stopped working at the atelier when I was born to raise me. And my dad had a sustainable furniture business. He was kind of ahead of his time. He refurbished old furniture and gave it a new life. So naturally, when I decided to launch a brand, I kind of incorporated those 2 things, fashion and sustainability. And I didn't really think about that until recently, how also growing up by the beach, I've always had a deep respect for nature and the resources that surrounded me. And that really reflects it in my brand.
I guess for me, I didn't went to school for design. My grandma taught me how to sew in her mother's sewing machine. So that's just the beginning of everything. And also just growing up in the city that I grew up and having the friends that I had. I feel that just family and friends is always so connected in everything that I want to do and the pieces I make. So I feel it's very intimate and personal always for me.
Can you give us an example of specifically how that shows up in your work? What comes to mind to me is, for example, some of the names of your pieces or your photo shoots. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I feel since I started kind of my creative process, I was doing photography, I was doing journalism a little bit, and I always wanted to create with my friends. For models, I use my friends and ask my friends to help me around. Even right now, it's always working with my close friends. All of my pieces, they're named after my family or my friends. Every time I creating something, I'm always asking my friends, will you wear this? Will you have this in your closet? So I feel it's always also rooted into the design.
Let's talk about starting that first step, because we also asked questions in our stories, and one question was, how do you start a brand in the most expensive city in the world? And all the time I hear how did you start? How can I do? And it's just I think the biggest pero that we all give ourselves is oh, I can't do it because I don't have enough resources. And I think that's extremely, extremely valid. But also I know that in my experience and from what I know of you, like anything is possible and you just have to start somewhere. Can you walk us through that first tiny step that you made? Like that first little investment that took you somewhere? Moni, for example, I know that you started with just 6 bags.
Yeah.
Like 6 designs, but also literally only 6 bags because you started with pre-order, right?
Yeah. So I'm kind of an isolated case because I started in the pandemic and I wasn't like going out and drinking because we couldn't do that. So I was saving a lot of money from my current job. And I decided I didn't want to invest too much in the brand from the beginning. So I didn't want to have like a factory because my funds were very limited. So what I did is I bought a sewing machine and I made 1 bag of each style that I planned to launch. And then I took photos of each one of them and launched them for pre-order. And then I got a lot of pre-orders to my surprise. And 4 months later, I was able to, get enough from the sales, invest in production, in local production here in New York.
But how did you get so many orders? Because I feel like having a website isn't enough. I feel like we were told that you have to have a website, and actually it's just like throwing things into this abyss because you need to direct people to your website with social media.
I think
how did they get there?
I missed a crucial thing. I also invested in good branding. That was like my first investment actually. And that took like a year until I launched. Wow. And I started like slowly releasing teasers on Instagram and really relied on Instagram for this. And I didn't have any products, and I just got creative with Instagram and like
created a mood.
Created a mood. You put it perfectly.
Okay, so it was a mood board first, a strong brand identity that you directed with a graphic designer, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And you teased it for how long?
I teased it, I think it was like from March to September when I launched.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
But it was the pandemic, so I also, in the middle of teasing it, I decided to launch face masks. And I started to get a lot of sales from those face masks. So, yeah.
So I launched in September 2021. And how I got to that was I saved money while I was at a full-time job for, I think like 4-ish years. Because I knew one day I wanted to launch my brand. I just didn't know when. And then post-pandemic, I think I hit that burnout and I said, that's it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to branch out. I quit my full-time job in May 2021 and I first dove in prototyping, pattern making, sampling, and I gave myself the timeline of like, I'm gonna launch in 3 months because I think I was just crazy. Yeah, I think I was just like, I'm so optimistic that this is gonna work. And looking back at it now, I'm glad I had that, sense of, risk. I would recommend if you're going to start something, it's not a bad idea to have a full-time job while you're starting because obviously, the first few months are hard.
Yeah, I think for me it was the same as Moni. Like I started in the pandemic and I was just making like things for my friends and then friends of friends and then friends of friends of friends like started like asking me, and I was living with my parents at the time. I'm moving again, and then I just decided to start the brand, and again my friends were the ones like helping me modeling, and I was like, it's gonna be COVID safe, like I swear. I think it was very much that, and then I decided to move to New York. I was working a full-time job. I will get home at 8 p.m. and then started like sewing in my little like tiny room. I was just again making it all myself and doing made to order as well. It felt very organically, like I didn't have like a set time that I wanted to like, okay, this is where I'm gonna launch and I'm gonna launch it like that. Like it came very like naturally, which I feel like it's still something that I like kind of try to keep going on the brand.
That feeling that you have when you make that jump from either working corporate or whatever situation you're in that's not working out, and you have this little seed of, I want to do my own thing. And it's kind of for 4 years, let's say in your case, you knew that you wanted to do it. And it's kind of eating at you that need of, I just want to know what this would look like. I need to know what this idea in my mind will look like outside in the world, is like the most powerful tool at the beginning. The drive that I remember I had when I started Tumbao was insane. That makes sense, that you have this also delusion of in 3 months, this has to happen because you need to know. Both of you started sewing. you did samples, you launched them for pre-order, and if you get 3 orders of your one sample, that is going to fund 2 more samples, right? And you go little by little. Granted, that's not always the case. If you want to do furniture, maybe you don't know how to work with iron or whatever. Or for example, in your case, Geno, you were making shoes and bags that are extremely structured and advanced. And I know that also it's very important for you to work with artisans. So I want to dive a little deeper in regards to like production, because I think that's also a big thing that when you're starting off, it's like, I have this idea, I sketched it, I have the universe in my mind, but like, how can I get it made? You have experience in both realms. You've worked with artisans in Mexico and in Chiapas, and you've worked with small factories in New York. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And for example, if someone here told you, I want to start a bag brand, should I do it there? Should I do it here? How does it relate working with factories or artisans?
Completely. Yeah. So ever since I knew I was going to start my brand, I knew it had to be made in Mexico. Like that was my one thing. But because I was working for a company here and managing production for that company, I already had a lot of connections in the city, including this one artisan who I met randomly. And he helped me make my first pattern, right? It's just him and his wife. They're actually randomly Mexican as well, but live here in Queens. So I had that luck of like, I already had built a bit of a network. The whole point of the story is that I made my pattern with this, and I knew I wanted to make my production in Mexico. So I did the production in Mexico, launched, put my bags up for pre-order, did all my pricing strategy based on that. And the moment I went into production, the production comes late from Mexico, and they look nothing like the samples. So it was an immediate nightmare. I obviously had to like backtrack. I had to put a bunch of money into producing the original samples here in New York, which is way more expensive, and it was never my plan.
Your margins got much smaller.
Margins, yeah, disappeared. But it was that kind of lesson where it's like, okay, I love working with Mexico, and I do love working with my artisans here. Here it could be a little bit easier because it's all in person and we have a great relationship. Like we've known each other for so long that sometimes I feel like they can read my mind. It just is so much more expensive here versus in Mexico. I feel like, I mean, the whole point of, my brand is to grow local economies. And even though it's like maybe a bit harder, I feel like it's more worthwhile in the long run. So we'll see what happens.
I think it's also worth mentioning that there are small factories that are totally worth working with. I feel like someone hears factories and it's like, that's horrible, that's unethical, they're like exploiting people and it's super cheap. And like a lot of our brands work with factories in all over Latin America, or both of you work with factories here in New York that are independent businesses, like basically a family that has been running the factory for generations. So a lot of our brands, they start like that. They sew everything themselves, and eventually they have to scale. And they either work with small talleres, small workshops, or they look for factories, but that's still completely valid. You just have to do your research. Out of curiosity, we're talking about Mexico, production, manufacturing. You ship in your leather from Mexico. I'm just curious, have the tariffs affected any of you in any way? And have you had to work around it?
Yes and no. So I don't know if I've actually told you this, but I recently transitioned my bag production to Mexico. Okay. And it happened like maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And I was lucky that I got my last biggest shipment right before the tariffs were set to take place. But now apparently we're getting tariffs exactly to 30% August 1st. So I don't know what I'll do in the future, but thankfully, my margins are good, so I have a little bit of cushioning, but eventually I think I might have to raise my prices a little bit.
Out of curiosity, Moni, what is a big shipment for you? Like how many bags?
Those were like 300?
300.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, their minimums they're like 200. So I went from a factory that had, here in New York, my minimums were 25 to that now. So it's a huge shift, yeah.
Also with the whole tariff situation, it's been so exhausting, the constant back and forth of like, I can't plan for the future because it keeps changing. And it really almost feels like a punishment for people who want to invest in Mexico and like work with Mexicans. How can I plan my business if I don't know what this future is going to be. If it's going to be 50% tariffs one day, or I mean, hopefully we don't even get to 30. It was originally 25, and then he changes his mind, and it's just, I'm like exhausted.
It's quite literally a punishment. I think that's the goal and the point. But it's been amazing. Like here we have, again, over 70 brands. And even though it is so draining because it affects your entire margin. So if you're doing wholesale, you have to adjust wholesale. If you have your website, you have to adjust your website. And then oftentimes, you know, you can't adjust it in time. So you end up losing money. Our brands are so resilient. And I feel like their work is so genuine. Their audience is always able to understand any change that if they have to implement a change, which I'm so grateful for. Okay, just a little more of like, let's talk production specifics. I love that we're talking about wholesales and minimums and whatever. Alba, you, like you said, you learned to sew from your grandmother. Then you went on to sew everything yourself. Then you went on to now work with a small workshop in Mexico. In this like kind of self-taught process, is there any specific example, like any technical thing, like a tech pack, or for example, I know that along the way I learned what a French seam is, and now I never miss the opportunity to be like, this is beautiful, but it would look better with a French seam.
Here's how I sew a French seam. For those who don't know, a French seam is a sewing technique used to encase a raw edge. The technique dates back centuries and is still commonly seen in fashion today.
So can you give us some insight on something that you had to learn that you were like, I have no idea what this is?
Everything, like all of it. I mean, like growing up, I was always interested in fashion and design and like graphic design, every type of design. But I didn't know anything. Even my grandma didn't know anything, like the names of it. So it was very much like, just do this. And I was like, okay, just cut this. And I was like, okay. So I feel like it was very much like the discipline that I had of like, I want to do this. Like, I know this is like making me happy and this is my passion. So I have to learn. So it was very much like self-taught everything and just like asking my friends that went to design school. Being here in Tumbao also like taught me a lot. The first like market week, I remember I was like, what is a market week? Like I didn't know anything. So it was very much like just learning and not be afraid of like asking around and just like what you said, being resilient. I feel like that's my main thing.
Asking, watching YouTube videos, figuring it out. You always figure it out.
Yeah.
YouTube is a good school.
YouTube.
It is, yeah.
TikTok now too.
Yeah, TikTok too. Shorter time.
Yeah, what Alba was saying about Market Week is something that we don't really share publicly in Tumbao because it's just kind of this like insider thing that we do. But basically, 2 years ago, we opened the showroom, which operates parallel to the store. The store is open to the public. Like I said, we have over 70 brands. But in an effort to kind of get our brands to a global scale, we opened the showroom, which means we selected around 10 brands that show their collection during Market Week. Market Week happens either 4 times a year with each, collection, or twice a year. Buyers would come in, and Hannah was showroom manager, so she would try to send emails. No one knew who we were, and that business is way more traditional than the retail business. Like, you have to cultivate those relationships for a really long time. It'd be interesting to later do an episode on that on the podcast, like dive into specifics, but there's a lot in the industry that we've all learned together. Can you give us an example of one thing that you did maybe out of necessity or instinct that really helped your brand grow?
Like I said, I started sewing everything myself. So I feel like just saying goodbye to that, like it was very hard. Like I was the one like creating each piece. So when I knew that I wanted to launch like other things and I wanted to do more and produce more, I just was like, I can't do this. And I remember I asked a friend that's also a designer, and she's the one that recommended me to the workshop that I'm working right now in Mexico City. And she was like, if you want to grow, like you gotta stop making everything yourself. Like you need help. Like I still make all the custom orders from the brand. I like sew it myself in my studio. And I was lucky enough to find one that was like perfect and didn't ask me for like minimums of amount. So yeah, I feel like that was just hard, but it needed to be done. and I'm happy. So it's a good match. I feel like once you find like a workshop that works with you and understand your product, it's just easy.
For me, it's been hiring people and developing a team slowly because I enjoy wearing all the hats, even though I shouldn't. Like, it's honestly, it was becoming kind of a lot. And it's been hard for me to kind of like delegate tasks because I enjoy doing it all. But yeah, definitely building a team.
I know, and also then getting back the time.
That too.
Yeah,
what do I
it's
do
hard
with
to
my
find the
hair?
balance.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the opposite, and I feel like slowing down sometimes helps me grow. I think if I'm doing too much, I get overwhelmed. So sometimes it's about reminding myself to not burn out and finding the joy in it again, like reminding yourself why you started.
I think that all of our brands are in the end niche and like they're growing. Some of us are working with, now talleres and workshops and scaling, and you're not sewing everything yourself, but you're also not one of those huge corporations like, I don't know, Vince in Soho, right? So for that reason, you have to go in all in, right? And have these first stages where you're working your butt off. And you're wearing a million hats, but your biggest differentiator is the soul of your brand and the soul of your identity and being niche. Like everyone that's here, everyone that shops Tumbao wants a niche brand. And I think to maintain that throughout the years, you have these bursts of intensity, and then you have to have these bursts where you scale back and you reassess and you create change and you slow things down. So I think that's completely natural and actually very strategic. And scaling comes in different forms. Scaling takes time. I think one of the the best advice that I ever got is you have to be in it for the long run. Becoming super trendy and becoming extremely popular is from the go is usually not a very good sign. We still don't have a website. I've received several comments of people like, why don't you have a website? And like, I have my reasons. I don't think it's a priority. We focus so much on in-person, and we will get there, but it's been almost 5 years and we still don't have one. And it's kind of like that limit has helped us create desire and demand and helped us scale. And now our first dip into the digital space is our Substack and our podcast, and that's how we're scaling. But we barely have a TikTok, so like scaling means different things for everyone. You just have to, I think, be extremely connected with what you want to do and what makes sense with your brand. Sustainability. The three of you are quite sustainable. I know that that's a part of your core ethos. Let's talk about it, not in theory, but in action. Can you share a time when a sustainable limitation forced you to get creative?
So I don't know if you guys are familiar with my bags, but they all have like these very like elongated, exaggerated openings. And usually when we cut out our patterns like for production, or the pattern pieces for production, they're like arranged in a kind of like a puzzle piece way that reduces our waste. But for this one bag, the opening was really big and we had a big chunk of scrap. And so I decided to make these like card case situation. Like it was like patchworky, not card cases. They were more like zip pouches. And those became a bestseller. So it was kind of like, and we reduced our waste by 15%. So it ended up being a win-win situation.
Yeah, I think for me, I work with dead stock leather. So the limitation has been, depending on how much leather I can find of like a certain pattern or a certain color, it all becomes very small batch production. And I think I used to see it as like, oh no, once this sells out, like it's gone and I can't capitalize more on it. But now it really makes each piece so special. And I think of my bags a lot of like, oh my God, there's 2 of them out there in the world. That's so cool. Like there's nothing like it. Makes it very unique. Well, also in your case, working with
I was
deadstock.
just gonna say the same. Like I feel like the first pieces that I was making, like I said, I was making them myself. So I guess the limitation was the time. Like each corset will take me around like 8 hours to make. And then right now that I launched kind of like an upcycle part of the brand, also like just being so smart and just like also that like it just takes time. And I feel like that also has taught me a lot, just having a lot of patience, and also that like, okay, there's only like a few pieces of this style and I make them in my studio. I can't produce 1,000 pieces. Like it's not for me and I don't want that. So I feel like it's very much like, it just becomes so personal and so intimate. And for me, that's just like what I want. So
Alba, you said it takes 8 hours to make one corset.
Yeah. I mean, it takes me less now.
How long does it take you now?
Like 5
6?
hours. Yeah.
How do you factor that into the pricing?
I mean, right now I'm only doing costume pieces. So that is like, it is kind of like a special treatment. Like clients will go into my studio. That is my house, my apartment. It is like such like a intimate, again, like process. So yeah, I feel like that's just like, you're not only getting a top, like you're getting like an experience and you're getting a friend. So
This is true. Alba, everyone is upset. She's like, oh yeah, that customer that you introduced me to, we went to get coffee, ni sé qué, ni sé cuánto, and then I see stories of them. It's a whole thing. And it is really lovely how you custom make a lot of corsets. She also uses scrap, like the dead stock, as you said. So, you know, people give you like a piece that maybe is dear to them and you can reinvent it. You've also done brides.
Say, as a side note, Alba made my bridal look, and it was such a special process to to have you there with me through all of it. And we used some like dead stock wool that I had from Chiapas, and it was just like, it tied all my worlds together. And Monica made me a bow. And, like literally everyone here it's such a family.
That's true. I forgot about that. Geno's wedding was beautiful.
See, Valen did all the photography. So literally, we all were.
Working hard for you, mi reina. Working hard. Moni, I've wanted to ask you this forever. I'm sure a lot of people here know. Moni is the marketing queen.
Oh my God.
Queen. Like there was a time where you told me that you had a rule that you had to post at least one TikTok a day. Sometimes you were posting.
That's gone.
That's gone. But you did it for like 2 years.
For a long time, yeah.
For 2 years, you exploded. User-generated content.
Acompáñame a visitar la tienda de Santos by Monica en New York. Yo estuve la semana pasada.
What's in my bag? Tote de Monica Santos.
She gives me such a retro, vintage, but not vibe, but in the best way. I mean,
Ads. All types of ads. Events. You do a lot of events in your store. Moni has a store parallel to us on Ludlow. You've done influencer gifting as well. And then, of course, you create your campaigns and your content. If you could only keep one of those strategies, which one would it be and why?
Okay, this is a very tough question to answer. Maybe I'll start by saying that I think marketing is like changing a lot. Mm-hmm. So I used to gift influencers before, and now what used to drive a lot of engagement might not drive so much engagement now. Mm-hmm. Ad costs are higher than ever. There's a lot of competition. Like, you know, you're competing against huge brands also running ads, paying more than you. So it's changed a lot. But I will say, for me, it's kind of like a combination. I can't really choose one. I would say it's a combination of different things, but mainly focusing on storytelling and community building. Mm-hmm. So an example of this is I used to work with influencers where I would gift them just one bag, and they would post them literally one time, and then I would never see them wear it. And I realized it's much more meaningful to find someone that actually loves the brand and is willing to wear it multiple times, even if it's a smaller or not an influencer at all. At the end of the day, it creates brand loyalty, and that reflects in the ads as well. Like, you could spend a lot of money on a photographer for a great ad, but at the end of the day, that my best performing ads have been the ones that are a little more about storytelling, like explaining the cactus leather process, or even sometimes me speaking. And I think if I were to keep something in all of those strategies, would be focusing on your storytelling and what makes you you within like all of those different marketing aspects. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense, for sure. Yeah. I think that if someone was starting their baby brand, right, and they were like, I only have the budget for one thing. Yeah. In my experience, I definitely, like you said, I wouldn't tell you to gift it to an influencer. No. Or anything related to exposure is a scam. You won't get exposure. I have friends whose pieces have been featured on Bad Bunny videos, whose pieces have been featured in Beyonce videos, and they did not get any conversions from that. So I think unless Bella Hadid wears your thing and like tags you or something, the exposure thing isn't really it.
And you're wasting a lot of money and product too.
So much. And really it's people like that shop here, people like all of you that just like see you and become so loyal and end up drinking coffee with Alba.
Yeah. I think also it's like about creating like authentic content too, at the end of the day. Like,
What's been the most surprising way that being an entrepreneur has changed your life? Because it's a life-changing step. It's so scary, but also so freeing and so beautiful and so challenging. I know it changed my life, so I want to know how it changed yours.
The vulnerability of it, like the not being scared to ask for help, and building this sort of community where you have support. You know that if things go wrong, you have people that you can be like, help me, and they'll come. If people are, thinking of starting something, build that network.
For me, it's kind of been the privilege of like managing your own schedule, which I wasn't used to before. I used to wake up at 8, go to work at 9. Now I wake up at 6 and I work out at noon. And I found that by working out at noon, when I come back to work, I'm like more productive, which I would have never found out if I was still at my 9-to-5 job. But I mean, that is a luxury to be able to do this. But also, I think, I heard once there was a study done in Copenhagen that this company was sending their workers to the gym at noon or to work out, and they came back more productive. And honestly, I see it in my work. So I would say that's, learning to be disciplined in my own way.
Yeah, I guess for me that too, like, I feel like it ties a little bit with what you guys were talking about marketing. It's just like you have to do so many TikToks and you have to do so many things, but like at the end of the day, it's just like staying true to yourself and your brand. And I feel like that also reflects on like the people that buy your stuff, the people you connect with. And that's just like the biggest gift of it all. Like if someone buys or not buys something for my brand, like it's just like the connection of it. And I feel like that's just what the community of it, just being here in Tumbao, like saying hi to everyone, it's just like so special. And I feel like that's one of the most like blessings and like privilege that I had like going through my brand.
It's crazy how life, but like, yeah, starting a business, being an entrepreneur is such a mirror. And because you have to do everything yourself and like you're the face of it, or it challenges your deepest insecurities. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for Tumbao, because I had no choice but to push through and confront it. And I came back being like, I did that. Like, I'm less scared. Starting to enter a role of leadership was a challenge for me, because I built this entire business kind of very related to my skills in customer service, and being very charming and making someone fall in love with a piece. And like the whole project is really based on friendship and love. And I had to learn to kind of balance that once I had to be a leader. And I also had to have extremely high standards because we're competing with New York, right? And I have to make sure that like my standards are met. And I think one of the hardest things was Tumbao teaching me like, not everyone's gonna like you. Not everyone's gonna like it, and you have to suck it up. But yeah, that was so hard for me. That was like me facing that vulnerability and one insecurity. Does anything else come to mind?
For me, it was starting a sustainable brand without knowing nothing about sustainability. And I knew people who were experts. So I reached out to them and I kind of like had to be vulnerable and ask them like, I have this idea for a brand. Do you think what do you think? And I remember leaving feeling a little bit sad because what they told me wasn't exactly what I wanted to hear. And I realized I still had a lot to learn. But, over the years, I've learned that you learn as you go and you kind of have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's that. It's also like that you're doing things all the time and you don't fully know what you're doing. Like it's a constant learning every day. And it can get scary, but you just kind of fake it till you make it.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. Has any like fast fashion brand or large conglomerate ever stolen one of your businesses?
Yes, so many. That's happened to me quite a lot. I went public on social media and got like kind of backlash, so I decided to just do nothing. Like, yeah. At the end of the day, like if they change like 30% of the design, which could be literally just a stitch line, it's fine. So it sucks.
Yeah. I had it happen to me once and I remember talking to you about it and being like, do I go public or not? And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to put that energy out into the world, and you just keep going.
When I went public, it gave me even more stress because then I had to deal with that being public. I was like, no.
Yeah. And again, your audience gets it. Like your audience knows you and your audience will be loyal and they'll be pissed at that corporation.
What's frustrating is, when you see big corporations knocking you off when you haven't even when your product hasn't even been around for that long.
And making a ton of money off
Exactly.
of it.
There was actually a brand, this is what actually has surprised me the most, when emerging designers knock off other emerging designers. There's a brand that even knocked off my branding. It's the branding, the design, and even pricing structure, everything.
There was also a time someone created a profile that was supposed to be you.
Oh, that happened also last week.
That's what you get for being popular, Moni. Sorry.
No, that's so annoying.
All right, I saw some more hands. Sophie.
Question for you guys. So living in the U.S. right now in these times, how does it feel to be a Latina woman business owner who's made a life living and seeing her community so affected by the recent current events?
I'm going to repeat that. Living in the U.S. right now and being a Latina, how has it affected you seeing, what's happening to our community across the country?
I think since November, it's been devastating, right? It's been scary and you just don't know what you're going to wake up to. And there's been so many bad days. And we were talking about yesterday of, looking at the news and just bawling, and you feel so helpless of how can I help? How can I make a difference? I don't know. I think, again, it all goes back to community. I think building these support systems has gotten me through it. And I know there's still so much more that we can do and we're going to do to get through this together.
I was going to say exactly the same, community, and also using your platform to help in any way.
Yeah.
It's really hard to have the balance between being informed, doing the work, and also trying to survive, and the balance between seeing these big world events that you want to take action for, and at the same time knowing that your immediate responsibility is, for example, your employees, right? And that means posting a stupid TikTok because that's going to sell the bags that helps you pay your employees. But it's that balance of doing that and feeling what's the point of this is hard.
It was the same a couple of months ago that everything was so everywhere, even now. But it's just what do I do as a creative brand that it's selling clothes right now? It does it for me did felt very meaningless, and I was just what am I doing? What does it even make sense? But I feel it does in a way, and it's just for me personally, everything's so deeply connected to my heritage and to my family and to my community, and I feel everyone here. So I feel it's also that you are also changing things and speaking up on working on your thing and being proud on what you do and in your community, and just being supportive with each other. And yeah, I feel
Yeah, I think there's always so much more that we can do. But I do think that becoming an entrepreneur is a radical act. I think that and we all do the best that we can, there's nothing wrong with not doing that. But, not feeding these big corporations who end up funding a lot of the people that are doing a lot of harm is huge. And creating a network, whether it's 3 people, 5 people, 20 people with whom you're responsible for, with whom even the act of treating someone nicely as a boss, right? Or working with, a seamstress and giving them days off or whatever. All the brands that I know who were all in our 20s, 30s, I know that everything that they do with love, and they're running businesses that affect other people, and they always treat them well. And I think that itself is extremely radical and takes a lot of effort, a lot of bravery, and a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice. But at the same time, there's always more that we can do, and we have to keep doing better with time. Any other questions? Hey!
My name's Andrew. First things first, I love you guys. All of you guys are so different in so many ways. It's so interesting. Honestly, between work, mouth to mouth, knowing each other, to a slow cool start, to an exclusive start. I'm not sure how Tumbao started before. 1.5 questions. Forbidden question, how old are you guys? And second thing, what's one recommendation you will give someone who's just starting?
Okay, So first question is how old we all are, which
I'm 19.
Oh my God, same.
we all kind of look 15, I feel. Well, maybe not. Some people might disagree. I love that question because I do feel like the one thing that I want to do the most with our panels and with our podcast is like kind of dispel this idea of like our brands just poofed out of thin air, you know, and like people see us and we're really young. And I remember before I started just looking at people that already had their project and their business going and being like, how they look really young. Like, how did that happen or stuff like that? So like very specific questions like that. I know that they come from maybe that place. I'm 28. I'll be 29 in September. I started Tumbao when I was like 23. Right after the pandemic, 23, 24. And that was the first question. And the second one, what's one recommendation that you would give to someone who is just starting their own brand or project?
I'm 32. And my recommendation was if you can have, some sort of salary while you're starting, it's really helpful because I feel like you can give more to your brand and grow it more knowing that you have your bases covered.
I'm 31 and I launched Santos when I was 26. My advice is similar to yours, I guess, but also like definitely have some sort of income while you're starting out. And that it goes back to what I was saying, you kind of learn as you go. Like don't feel like you need to know everything to launch. Like I think you have to like honestly challenge yourself, and that's like the beauty of it.
I'm 28 and same. Like I started with having a full-time job and like 1,000 freelance things that I was doing on the side. Right now I work still part-time and I do freelance, so I'm still having to like support my brand with other things. But like I know that's gonna change soon. But yeah, I feel like that's also like having this kind of like salary base that will help you, and just you will have to use your own money to just like invest on your brand.
Exactly.
And yeah, also just don't wait that much. I feel like it's just like very much like fake it until you make it. Just start, like
just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
Yeah, just start with one thing. Make a scrunchie. Someone will buy it. Then you can make 3 scrunchies. Just start. And I would balance that out because I think that starting off with a salary, it creates some balance and alleviates, the pressure and buys you some time. But I will also say fear is an incredibly powerful force. And the fear that I felt when I started Tumbao and I had a commitment, like for example, paying a New York lease, it was like the biggest adrenaline shot I've ever felt in my life every single day. Granted, sometimes I woke up at 4 a.m. like, and that didn't always feel good, but it gets stuff done. So I would say when you're starting, do that, but also don't stay in that space too long because you need to take a leap and you need that risk and that faith and that fear to fuel you. I think.
I will add to that. I will say did you have something else to say?
No, I was going to end it, but we can keep talking.
No, I was going to say one more thing, that when I quit my full-time job was right when I was about to launch. Because I felt like it was the right time. I was like, I feel like I've done enough marketing work. Someone's going to buy something. And I did. So you'll feel it out when you see when it's the right time.
All right, guys, we're done. Thank you so much.